Hello again, fellow wanderers, and welcome back to another how-to play guide for Dreamforge. My name is Aeon, and with me again today is Eli, who you'll hear more from in the video. In the land of Drakkar, there are a variety of encounters and creatures you'll face on your adventures with your party. With the encounters will come a variety of weapons, tools, and armor you'll be able to obtain to combat all of these creatures and things you face. Through your travels on and off Drakkar, you'll be able to purchase different things from merchants, find things in lost ruins, and craft your own weapons and armor and tools as you like, and even be able to augment them yourself with construct parts you find and monster parts you scavenge and carve from the various creatures you'll be encountering. All these cases and more today we'll be taking a further look at, as we take a deep dive into equipment in the Dreamforge experience, the arsenal of your wanderer. Real quick, before we begin the video proper, I just want to remind everyone to subscribe to the channel and like the video as it helps us reach more people and grow the community, as well as comment your thoughts about what we're discussing in the video and your thoughts on Dreamforge in general. Also, don't forget to check out our Discord channel if you want to try out the experience for yourself and join the community there.
As said earlier, the equipment in Dreamforge is the arsenal of your wanderer. From weapons you wield to deal damage to enemies, to the armor that protects and shields you from whatever monstrosities or foes seek your demise. You want to look at your options and understand the various strengths and weaknesses, along with any requirements they may ask for to effectively use them. Armor and shields make up the majority of the defensive options to your arsenal, granting you resilience to certain damage types and a higher defense to avoid taking damage altogether. Things like an armor jacket, padded plate vestments, splint armor, or a tarred shield make up some of these options here. Meanwhile, weapons are your main instruments for dealing damage outside of spells and often work alongside certain combat maneuvers or class-based features to deal devastating attacks. Things like the magic staff, longsword, warhammer, rifle, or exalted blades are examples. Items which fall outside of the realm of normal weapons and armor, though may have similar, completely unique functions, are considered in the adventure gear category or special equipment in some cases. These include things like parry sheaths, practice dummies, traps, special support weapons, and energy shields.
Something not mentioned yet, that you may have seen glimpses of, is possibly the most important part of equipment, that is properties. In Dreamforge, properties are the main component outside of things like AC and weight for armor, or damage and impact for weapons. These properties can provide a series of function and augments to an otherwise normal piece of equipment, granting it its own unique usage and special methodology. For example, on paper the glaive and halberd have similar damage and impact values, but their properties make them entirely unique to each other, and grant people different ways of using them. The wide and swing property places the halberd in an area which is great for striking multiple close foes, and can be wielded with one or two hands. Meanwhile, the glaive's dire strike property makes it a weapon that hits harder on critical hits, and also the tripper property makes this weapon a great choice for those looking to disrupt the foe's balance or poise. Also, just as a side, for those that are weapon nerds in the audience, I am aware, or we are aware, that glaives technically and halberds would actually have more flip properties here in terms of realistic things and such, but we didn't know that when we initially made them. We can always make that change, but that is why that is the case there. So don't freak out too hard. Nevertheless, before we go into a few more specific examples and explanations for various weapons and armor, let's talk about a few important terms that you may see appear, and then we'll go about how you choose equipment at the beginning of your adventures, or in general, for determining if you even can use the damn things. When you're looking at some specific equipment, you'll want to take note of a few key terms, and things about determining the properties and if you can even utilize it. Firstly, you'll want to note if you can use the equipment by seeing if you're versed with this type of classification. You can find specific versed and any information pertaining to the armor and equipment category within your core class features, backgrounds, and in some cases lineage information. These will say things like versed with X thing, be it a category or specific piece of equipment, meaning that you're able to use the equipment barring a few specific things. Some equipment have a vitality or other trait score requirement, meaning that even if you're versed with the given piece of equipment or category, you may not be able to still use it due to lacking the prerequisites, or specifically these prerequisites. If you meet the listed number for that stat, however, you can use the equipment barring no other special requirements, like species or affinity, often seen in some magical items. So, now that you've determined that you can indeed use the damned item, ordinarily you can feel free to use it, although some items might require you to attune to them first. In cases where an item is not specifically exempt and is increased through resonance level, it may also require you to attune the item, as mentioned before as well. Let's say, however, you are just starting out your character. In this case, you'll want to check both your background and class for any starting equipment and gold you might have accumulated. Along with this, you'll want to check any adventure details and ask your DM if there's any additional items or starting gold for you to tally up. Once you have totaled your starting funds, you'll want to pop on to the equipment or adventuring gear sections and see what you might want to purchase before setting off on your journey. This is very important, so listen up to what I'm going to say here. I'm talking to you, specifically the person not paying attention, you know who you are. Before picking any specific item or piece of equipment, go to the adventure gear section and look at the equipment/item packs portion, towards the top of the section. There you can pay for cheaper bundles of items sorted by classes, factions, and more. This will save you a ton of money if you are not looking for a specific item, so please use and abuse this system as it has been made for you. Okay, PSA done. Once all that's been decided, you can keep whatever remaining gold and items you've got and have selected your starting equipment. Now we've gone through how to both choose your equipment and a brief explanation for equipment. I think you've all been patient enough. Let's blitz through here and talk about some of the various equipment categories in more details, shall we? I do want to add also that we'll be doing a further video talking about the specifics of some of this stuff in more detail in the future, so stay tuned for that.
The main components of armor and shields are the armor type classification, listed as light, medium, or heavy, and the other is the AC, or armor class, bonus they grant. The armor class is what is commonly rolled against when making an attack roll to try and hit a target. Having a higher one is always better, as it means the chance of you getting successfully hit by an attack roll goes down the higher your AC is. That being said, often a higher base AC comes with drawbacks on some armor, from lower movement, reflexes, or other things, while lower armor class boasts less negative movement and sometimes bonuses in place of a higher base AC. Outside of AC, armor also comes with a variety of properties that can aid you, like thermal, which can grant you bonuses on exposure checks in cold environments at the cost of checks in hot environments. Flexible, which grants you a bonus to your maneuverability in making fitness and deftness checks at the cost of your exposure in hot environments. Another good property is fitted, which reduces damage from physical sources, though requires an even build of stats between both vitality and agility to avoid AC loss. At least until you augment your armor with upgraded fittings and other advancements. In some cases, the property is more descriptive, but can be important for some classes that normally require you to use specific types of armor. In this case, you have organic, which is equipment fashioned from mostly organic components like scales, hide, or chitin. Talking about shields more directly, they offer both passive and more activatable defensive options, with their primary ability to use the shields up action. This can reduce incoming damage by certain sources when raising the shield in a defensive manner as an action. Some shields have properties benefiting this style of play greatly through the shield raiser property, while others focus in different areas. Take the parry property, which takes your defensive tool and turns it into a reactive one, which can grant you the opportunity to throw your foe off and make a counterattack. Perhaps you fancy yourself a guard and protector of the team, in which case you may want a shield which has the guard property, granting you a special reaction to intercept a blow that could prove fatal for an ally. This property is also special as it gains bonuses dependent on if the person you're guarding has a shield with this property as well.
When it comes to weapons in Dreamforge, you'll find that there's a variety to fill many different playstyles from the vast swath that's available. Having many more properties than armor, you'll find there's options galore. More like Cthulhu. A few weapon properties we want to show are as follows: Deft, Focus, Siege, Momentum, and Oversized. Beginning with Deft. Deft allows you to use your agility in place of vitality, the trait, for your attacks. Items possessing the Deft property are very commonly used among agile fighters. Focus allows you to use your weapon as a soul channeling focus. for the channeling of spells. Along with this, another property that is sometimes shared with it, Focus Transfer, allows you to carry the energy type of what was last channeled through the weapon, granting it a minor boost in elemental or energy damage. The Siege property allows you to deal normal damage to vehicles, vessels, and gargantuan or larger sized creatures, instead of dealing half damage as per normal rules. The Momentum property is all about carrying the weapon's inertia from a missed attack to lead it into the next, granting you some minor insurance, potentially allowing you to hit your target later. And lastly, the Oversized Weapon property, which grants an additional amount of reach and damage at the cost of being a more weighty and cumbersome tool. To note, there are many more properties that we didn't discuss initially here, and there even exist some special properties seen on augments only for specific factions and foundry equipment, or specific weapons most predominantly seen in weapons in the trick weapon or tech weapon categories, which we'll get into very soon. Speaking of weapon categories, let's begin with the simple weapons, shall we? The first category is simple weapons, and they get their name because they are the most commonly used weapons by people and creatures across Drakkar and more. They are things like light hammers, daggers, and quarterstaffs, things which take little skill or practice to use well or efficiently, though this does not mean in the trained martial expert's hand they cannot be a deadly, effective tool. The second category of weapons is advanced weapons. These are weapons which take a bit more skill and knowledge of weaponry to utilize effectively, but also come with a fair bit more power and properties by comparison. These are things like long swords, warhammers, lances, battle axes, great swords, and great maces. Advanced weapons also include trick weapons, so if you're versed with all advanced weapons, you are also versed with all trick weapons, bearing again any special requirements. Trick weapons are advanced weapons with a small special property often unique to the weapon itself, or a set, making them function more uniquely and special over the existing advanced weaponry. Though, due to their speciality, they cost a bit more and require some specific types of playstyles to really get their mojo, so to speak. These are things like chain blades, bound sickle or short sword weapons linked with by a cord or chain to be swung and maneuvered in a wide pattern of strikes. Flamberges, a special longsword variant with a thorn-like blade edge, made to cause bleeding very easily. Or gunblades, an earlier designed forge caster and blast gladiator armament, which replicates the superior blade rifle's tech arm, and combines the martial prowess of a sword with the ranged sting of a mid-range firearm with less ammunition than normal. The fourth category of weaponry are firearms, which, as the name implies, are things like rifles, sidearms, cannons, and other gun-like weapons. Firearms usually have a specific function and property, like loading, which tells you the type of ammunition, capacity, and other things it would use, as well as the reload time itself. Past that are some other few things that make firearms special in their own unique right. This leads us to one of the most powerful veritable weapon types or categories you'll see, that being tech weapons. Tech weapons are weapons which have several installed augments and upgrades within them by default, which will grow stronger and gain new abilities as the weapon's item level increases, or resonance level in some cases. These weapons are considered the pinnacle of weapon design before any additional augmentation is needed, though, due to this specialized nature, they often have some of these slots already taken up by default, as said earlier. You can find weapons like the Exalted Blade, a specialized extended longsword which draws spiritual power as you attack with it, to use in potent effects and abilities. The Tactical Longbow, a bow designed around inflicting status ailments and conditions, or doing major damage to creature parts. Or potentially the Energy Greatsword, a skillful weapon which incorporates aspects of a sword and shield to draw power from attacks in that mode and shift forms into a longer energy blade combined with part of the shield, emitting powerful energy attacks that can be unleashed in devastating ways by expending the energy that's gained from the sword mode. If you ever heard of or played Monster Hunter before, this is based on the Charge Blade. It's my favorite weapon and my main.
Lastly are adventure gear and support items. These are items and equipment which fall slightly outside of the realm of the previously mentioned armor, shields, and weapons, despite sometimes relating or affecting them. You can find a variety of things like snare traps and pitfall traps, which can bind and restrict targets in place. Special ammunition, which you can load into a variety of ranged weapons, and even some other special weapons to augment their damage, effects, and more. Grenades and explosive used to bring a boom and blast to the party. Energy shields, which can be worn or augmented into your armor to supply you additional defenses and even offensive benefits from recharging a field of energy wrapped around you. Lastly are support weapons, otherwise known as special equipment, These are things which act like weapons with their special usage rules based on their power, sometimes taking one or two whole actions to fire, regardless of multi-attack ability, and having powerful effects. Often you'll see grenade launchers, mine layers, energy cannons, and missile launchers in this category, but mind that, just like other weapons, they also have properties. From simple daggers and swords to firearms like rifles and sidearms, and more advanced weaponry like exalted blades and blade rifles, you'll find something that'll fancy your fiddle, I'm sure.
While we went through and talked about a lot of weapons, armor, and special equipment today, there are plenty more things to see, and we only scratched the surface of what's available within the adventures you'll embark on within Dreamforge. We implore anyone who has questions and even ideas of their own to share in the comments below as we come to a close on this video about your Wanderer's Arsenal. We'd like to thank you all for watching the video and remind you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share us around as we are looking to grow the community. It would help us a great deal if you followed our Kickstarter page and checked out our Linktree, where you can see our art and various updates on our Twitter, Insta, and Blue Sky. If you want to try the game out for yourselves, or just stop by and say hi, join our official Discord, linked in the description box below. We hope to see you in the future, and again, thank you for all for watching, and see you Wanderers in the next video.